Hello Internet, welcome back to Daily Codes. Today we are going to do something different. We are going to create a chat room, a simple chat room using Python. This is an idea that I just thought about a week ago, and I did some research and I found code which I am going to share with you on how you can create a chat room, and that chat room will be on command line. So you spin up your client on your command line, and then you host your code also on a server somewhere, and people who have the client code can access the host wherever it is, and they can have a chat. I am not an expert into networking, but I'll try to explain the code as much as I can as a data scientist. But majorly, this video is just to have fun writing Python code that does something. So buckle your belts and let's start. So I have created here a folder, and this folder contains nothing. I've called it command chat. So it's just like command chat room. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use Python 3.10. I've heard that Python 3.11 is out. I will try to check it out and I see what new features are there. Then maybe I'll share with you. But before then, we're going to use Python 3.10. And I also encourage you to use pyenv to manage your Python version. So here I have Python 3.10.0, Python 3.6, Python 3.9, Python 3.8. I'm going to use Python 3.10 for this video. So I'm going to have pyenv local 3.10.0. So if you do ls -a, your Python version is hosted on your local folder. I do this mostly because I support several projects, and I have a project that I'm maintaining that is using Python 3.6. I have a project that I'm maintaining that is using Python 3.9. So if you have several projects, you can use pyenv. So let's create our virtual environment. So Python -m virtual environment, that is venv. Then let's activate that virtual environment. We are not going to use a lot of packages. I think the only package that I may need to use will be pandas. So pip install pandas. You can follow along coding, but if you want to just access the code, the link is in the description of this video. You can check the code out and then you try it. But you can also follow along while coding. Now, so after installing this, we are going to open VS Code. So there is nothing inside here. I'm going to create the first file called server side. Server side.py. So the server side script will be the code that will be hosted on the server. You know that a client is not a client without the server. So the server will be the one that will be communicating with all the clients, the one that will be accepting connections and then serving the request that the client is requesting. So we'll have this. There are several stuff that you will need to learn about sockets, but I'll try to explain as much as I can. Remember that I'm truly a data scientist. I do machine learning, data analytics, data engineering, but not networking. This is just a fun project. So let's code. So we're going to use two packages which come with Python. You don't need to install them. sockets and threading. So import sockets, and we're going to also import threading. So threading is the one that will allow us to start several sessions in different threads. And then sockets are like doors that the clients will be accessing our server with. So by defining a socket, you'll give it the IP and then a port, and that socket is where the other clients or other resources will be accessing the resource that you're serving. In this case, we'll be just serving a chat room. So after importing those two, we are going to create a class, and this class is called server side. I think you already guessed based on my coding style. The name of the file is usually related to the name of the class. So server side, and this server side, let's define its constructor. The constructor is going to take host, and the host is a string, and the default value for the string is the value for our local host 127.0.0.1. This should be the host even if you are hosting online or on a different server. This should be the host IP address that you should give it, or you should give it the IP address of your machine, but not the public IP address. But if the client is accessing this resource, the client needs to give the public IP address to your network. So the port is going to be a port that is not used on my machine currently. I can just guess a random port, but make sure that that port is not under use by any other processes in your machine. So my host, self.host, is that host value. Then self.port is that port value. So we can have several clients who join here, and we will need to keep the sessions of the clients, their sockets that they join with, so that we can use it to communicate back with them. We're going to call those sockets clients. So I'm going to have a list of clients. So self.clients should be a list. I will keep them in that list. Then I would also request the clients to give us their nicknames, so that we'll be saving their nicknames. Yeah, so what will happen is that clients will be running on different terminals, and they'll be requesting connection to the server. And when the server accepts to connect with them, the server will save the socket, their socket, in clients here, in this clients list. And then the server should also request for their nicknames, so that whenever we are broadcasting messages to other clients, the messages are given the nickname so that we know them. We cannot just give them sockets. They will not know who is communicating. Yeah, so that is my constructor. So we're going to define a function. I've talked about broadcasting. We're going to define how to broadcast. So we're going to just, whenever someone sends a message, it is broadcasted to everyone because it is a chat room. So let's define broadcast. Self.client. And so for what we're broadcasting is not a client, it is a message. So whenever someone sends a message, we are going to broadcast to all our clients. And for client in self.clients, so for each of the client here, we are sending them the message. So client dot send the message. We don't know which message it will be, but this will be helping us to broadcast messages to all the clients that are connected to our server. Next, we are going to define how to handle a connection from a client. We could have a client sending us a message and how we are going to handle that message. Mostly, since it is a chat room, we are just going to broadcast that message. So let's define a function called handle. So when we have a client, for each of our clients, assuming that we have one client, we will use threading for each of the clients. So assuming we are on just one thread and we are handling that one client, we are going to be waiting for a message from the client. Then when they send a message, you broadcast that message. So this is what we're going to do. While true, I'm going to tell you why I'm using while true. We're going to try. Then we get a message, we receive a message from the client. So it is client dot. Remember, I told you that this client is just a socket, and a socket has a method called receive. So we can have socket dot receive message. So we're going to have receive, and then the size of the message that we are going should be around 1 MB for now, 1024 kilobytes. Then after receiving a message from the client or from a particular socket, we are going to broadcast to everyone. So self dot broadcast message. So this is how we broadcast a message throughout the chat room. If that does not work, if there is a problem with these two pieces of code, we are going to remove our client from our list. So we're going to look for the index of the client in this list, the normal indexing and list management. So self dot clients, it's the list dot index, so list dot index, and the index we're looking for is the client, this client that was passed here. So after getting the index of the client here, we are going to remove that client. So we're going to do self, just removing something from a list. So let's get that list first, dot remove, then client, and we still have the index that we got from us. We're going to do client dot close. So that socket, we're just closing that socket. Then we are going now to broadcast to everyone that this client has left. So we're going to say, after closing the client, we're going to say, let's first get the nickname. Nickname self. So the reason why we're getting this index is here, self dot nicknames. So nicknames is also a list. Then we get the value at that index. Then we're going to tell everyone that is broadcast, so self.broadcast. And the message we're going to broadcast is this. I'm going to use an F string here. I want this to be bigger. And I'm going to say this person, nickname left. But when we are broadcasting a message, we need to encode it. So we're going to encode, and we're going to use ASCII encode it. You can use ASCII to encode this, or you can use UTF-8, but let me use ASCII. Then after saying that this person has left, we are going to remove the person from the list of the nicknames. So self.nicknames.remove, and we're going to remove index. I'm going to remove nickname, I mean. So this is if something wrong happens with the client, we remove them and we tell them that this person has left. Yeah, so let's define a way of receiving messages. So we have this is handling a message that a client receives. And now let's define a function that will help us to receive messages from everyone, from all the clients that connect to us. So let's define receive. Self server. We shall define the server later. And the server here is also a socket. So this server is going to be the socket that we're going to define for our server side. And then the client is a socket that is defined on the client's side. So these are just sockets. And a socket is like a doorway to a communication device. A socket can be a doorway between two Bluetooth devices. It can be a doorway to an internet devices. So those are just like interfaces of communication, what we call sockets. And I have to remind you that I am not a network engineer, so this is just a fun, simple project that took just one day to research. So while this is running, remember I'm usually very careful when I'm pushing code to production with these while loops. But since this is a fun project, we can continue. So while true, we are going to accept connections from our clients. And when we are accepting a connection, we use server. So server is a socket. Server dot accept. And server dot accept, this code we will not go past this line of code until we get something from somewhere, a connection. It is just like when you're running input in Python. Input. If you're running this, code will not, the running of your script will not pass this point until it gets an input. The same as server.accept, it will remain here until there is a connection that is created. So whenever there is a connection, this function here returns two things: a client, that is the socket. That's what I'm calling it client. Is a socket. I could just call it client socket, but I just want to call it client, and the address where it is requesting connection from. So address. So this will wait until there is a connection, so we can receive as many connections as possible, because if there is a connection, then there is a lot of things that happen there. then it comes back. This while loop will continue until we reach infinity, which will never reach. So when there is that, when there is a request to connect, we are going to print onto our terminal. You could use logging. If you've been following me for long, you know that I don't use logging because I want the project to be as fun as possible. Connected with, then we are going to put the address here. This is going to be an F string, and here we're going to make this one a string, and we put the address here. Then we are going to ask the client to give us the nickname. So we're going to say client. So client is the socket. So socket has send function. So we're going to send, and we're going to say nickname, and then dot encode, because when we are sending something, we have to encode it. We have to encode it into byte streams because we don't want to just send plain text more so over the internet. So let's encode this into byte streams. So dot encode, the same way we encoded this. Copy, paste. So after asking for nickname, we are going to receive a message from our client giving us the nickname. So we're going to say nickname will be equal to client dot receive, and we're going to receive 1 MB, not more than 1 MB, and we're going to decode. Whenever we receive it, we're going to decode that message using this algorithm. Then we're going to append the nickname into nicknames. So this client has requested connection to the server. We log onto the server that we are connected to this person. We ask the person for a nickname. We get the nickname. Then we're going now to save the nickname and the socket into the nicknames list, this one here, and the clients list. So let's do that. So self dot nicknames dot append, since it is a list, I'm going to append nickname, then self dot clients dot append, and we're going to append this client here, this socket. Then we're going to log the nickname is nickname. So print the nickname is that nickname. This is an F string. Then we're going to broadcast to everyone that, hello, this one has joined. So self dot broadcast. So whoever is in this list here, whichever socket is connected to the server socket, we're going to use this function to broadcast this message. So self.broadcast, and what is the message? The message is going to say, hello chat, this person here, we're going to put, should I put nickname or socket? Nickname has joined exclamation. Then we also need to encode because we don't want to send anything that is not encoded. So encode ASCII. So after broadcasting, we also need to send to the client a message that you're connected to the server. So we're going to say self dot no, I need to send to the client, so it will be client dot send. We're going to send a message, you are connected to the server, and everything we are sending we have to encode. You can choose the algorithm that is best for you. Then after sending, we start a thread for this client. So we on that thread, so each client will have their own thread, and that thread will help them to handle receiving and sending of messages. So I'm going to have thread. If you are new to sockets and threading, I will leave links to useful videos in the chat that will help you. Threading, multi-threading, and sockets. So thread will help us start a new thread for the client. Each client will have their own thread, and in that thread what I want to run is handle. So the target callable object is this method here, handle. So each client is handled their own way. So self.handle, and this is a callable object. We cannot just pass client to here. We're just going to have arguments passed this side. So args, and it's a tuple. I don't like this. Can someone show me how to remove this stuff? And then client. So we have whenever, so let's go back a little. Whenever the client or whenever a socket wants to connect to this server, we pick the socket and the address to the socket. Then we log that we are connected to this socket, this address I mean, and then we send to that socket that we need nickname, and then we wait for the socket to respond with the nickname, and we get the nickname. Then we append it to our list of sockets with their names. Then we also log that the nickname is this, so we are connected to this address and the nickname is that. Then we broadcast to everyone, hello, this person has joined. Then after that we send to our client that you are connected to the server. Then we start a thread for that client here. So this is just creating the thread. Then we are going to start the thread here. Thread dot start. So when you run thread dot start, this code will be running on a different thread, and your computer or your computation will continue. But here there is no code I'm adding. It will just go to this while loop again and start and wait for another client to join. So when another client is joining the previous one, their thread has already started, and if they're chatting, there is already a broadcast going on with the chat. So let's write a function for deploying this. So I'm going to define deploy chatroom. Self. So to deploy the chat room, we need to define the server, because you've been looking at me talking about the server here and you don't know how this variable will look like. Server is just a socket, just any other object in the network. So we have the server is socket dot socket. So here we're defining the socket. There are several sockets that you can define. There are those ones for Bluetooth, there are those ones for the internet, and several others, IoT. We're going to use internet socket. So socket, we're going to define here the kind of socket should be AFnet. So you're seeing here there is also AF route. So AF route, AF system, Unix. There are so many, but we're going to use AF inet or internet. Then the type of the socket, there can be two. There is a socket for streaming, and there is socket for just sending packets of data, and you don't need confirmation. But I'm not an expert in this. I'm just going to use a socket for streaming. So socket.socket sockstream. So this gives us the server, the one that you see me passing here. It is just a socket, but it's defined to communicate on the internet. So let's bind. So if you are a client and you're defining a socket in client, the client connects to a server. But if you are defining a socket for the server, you need to bind it to a host and a port. So server dot bind, and we're binding it to the host, self.host, not handle, host, and self.port. Then we launch the server to listen. So server.listen, for it to start listening for connections and what everything. Then we do server.receive, self.receive, because we want to use this function to run it. So we're going to have self.receive, and we're going to receive. We're going to pass in server. So this is the server that we are passing here. Where here. So what happens is we are just defining here the socket for the server, and then we are binding it to a host and a port. Currently, the host and the port we have is this, but you can change it. That's why I've put them as a variable here. Whenever you are defining server side, you can decide to change them. Then when we use the host and the port to bind it, we start listening, and then we run receive. So when you run receive, it will come here and wait for a client to call for connection. And if the client wants to connect, then it gets that, and then it continues, and then it starts a thread for the client. And that's it. This is the whole script for creating a server that will wait for connections from the client. So let's just create something here for running the script. If name equals to main then I'm going to just call this class server side. I'm not going to change any of this for now. Server side, start that class, then I run deploy chat dot deploy chatroom. So when we do this, let's go back to here and let's list. You can see that. So Python server side dot py. When we run that, socket.bind takes exactly one argument, but two are given. Let me see. So socket. Oh, it's supposed to take one bind. So this should be a tuple or a tuple, depending on how you pronounce it. Should take only one argument, which is a tuple, and the tuple should be the host and the port. Forgotten that. Well, so when you run that, it starts running, but we have not written a code for the client to connect to it, but it's running. So I'm going to exit. How would you know that it's running? I need to print here. Waiting for client to connect. That. So let's run it and you see. Yeah, you can see waiting for client to connect. Okay, so this is how we define our server. You can improve this code as much as you want. I got this code, the major part of this code, from a guy called, I hope I'm not butchering your name, Yashraj, and you'll find the link to this code, the original code, in the description. And also you'll find the link to this code to this code. It's in GitHub, also in the description. So let's create the client. So I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it client side.py. It takes the same format. We will need to use socket and threading. So import socket and threading. Then whenever we are running this, we will ask that guy. Remember, here there will be need for a nickname. Yeah, accept that, then connect, then we ask for nickname, then we shall receive the nickname here. So whenever someone is running this script, because this is what we're going to share with our friends, this one here will be somewhere in AWS or in Azure or in Google, running on a certain machine, a certain virtual machine. But this one is the code that we shall share with everyone, and saying, if you want to chat online today, please run this on your computer, and then we shall chat on our terminals, and no one will know about what we are chatting. So let's ask them for their nickname. Input. Remember what I told you, that input will not, this line of code will not continue until they get an input from the terminal. So what is your nickname? Then they will type the nickname there. So let's create a socket for the client. So client is going to be socket dot socket, and we are connecting to the internet. So socket dot af inet, and it is a stream, so socket dot sock stream. Then on the server side here, we said socket dot bind. Where is this function here? We said server dot bind, right? So in our client side, we just need to connect to that server. So we're going to have client dot connect, and we're going to connect to, see here I'm giving it a tuple because I had forgotten the other time. We are connecting it to this for now. If you're serving it online, then you try to figure out which IP you're going to give it here for the client, but for you, the host, it's going to be the same. And also you need to work on the on the firewall to allow allow connections from different places, different hosts. Then we're going to define two functions, one for receiving messages and one for writing a message, and we're also going to put them in different threads. So we're going to define, I'm not using object oriented on the client side, I'm just using functional programming because it's just a very simple script, and we're not going to have several instances of clients. It's this side, on the server side, that we may have several instances of the servers. That's why we have here, and you can maybe create a list of hosts and ports, and then just pin several chat rooms. But for a client, it's just one client, so I'm just going to write just a script. So receive is a function, and while true, so we're going to just run an endless loop. We try to receive a message from the host, because here we're trying to connect. So when we are connecting here, remember on our code here, when we are connecting, the host is going to send for the nickname. So we need to wait for that nickname. So try message. Let's get a message from the server. Client or the socket dot receive. Let's not receive more than 1 MB. 1024. The code, we were using ASCII. Then if that message is nickname, if message equals to nickname, don't remember how I put nickname is here. If it is nickname, then we're going to send. So client dot send nickname that we got here. Dot encode ASCII. See, now when we are sending a message, we have to encode it. When you're receiving, we have to decode it. Then else, let's just print the message onto our terminal. We tried that. If it fails, except we print an error and we close the connection. So print an error occurred. Then we are going to make this on an F string. We need to put the error message here. So accept exception as E, then we put the E here. Then we're going to close that socket. So client.close. If an error can, and we're breaking out of the loop because we have while true, so we're going to break out of this loop. If an error occurs, we don't want to remain there forever. So this is for receiving a message. What if you want to write a message? We are going to define how to write a message here. While true. So we're going to have message will be equal to, I want whenever someone writes a message, it has their nickname and the message here. So this is on a string with a nickname. So nickname is this, and the message will be an input. Yep. Then we send it. So client.send, and we're going to send message. Then we have to encode it, and we are using ASCII. And that's it. That's it for the client side. So let's just run this. We don't need to write the if main blah blah blah. So receive, let's create a thread. Receive thread, and that will be threading.thread, and the target object is, the target callable object is receive. So there will be a separate thread for receiving messages, and receive thread dot start. Oh, people are making noise, but I'm about to finish, so let me just continue. So dot start, so it starts a separate thread somewhere else. Then when we are writing, so let's create a write thread, and that will be also threading dot thread, and the target will be the write object or write function. Then let's start also that thread. So write. I'm going to leave a link on the description for a tutorial on sockets and a tutorial on threading, because those are the two main packages that we're using on this in this fun project. Right, thread.start. So this will start a separate thread, this will start a separate thread. There will be two threads running on this file. So let's see how this is going to pan out. We have this running. I'm going to open a new window, new shell window. Then I'm going to cd into, first of all, let me deactivate that conda. Deactivate, and I'm going to cd to where that project is, document, YouTube, command underscore chat. I'm going to make this bigger also. So here we have our server running this window. Here we're going to make one client to join. So let me activate that environment. So we have been activate, then Python client that what is your nickname? I'm going to say 1. Yes, hello chat1 has joined. You're connected to the server. Nice. So here, what's your nickname? That let me make another client join here. So shell new window. I'm going to copy this, paste it here, make it bigger so that you guys can see, because I care about you guys, for you to have to see what I'm doing here. Activate the virtual environment. Then Python client side.py. So this is 2. That is client 2. So you see, this is our server. This is running our server code. You can see this one. We have said hello chat 2 has joined. So let me just organize them here. Okay, let me put this one somewhere on top here. Make it bigger. Bring this one here. So we have two people in the chat. In the chat room, let me add the last person, maybe the third one. It can have as many connections as you want. Move here, then activate. So we have been activate. Make it bigger for you guys to see. Then Python client py, what's your nickname? 3. So we have 3 people in the chat. So let's start. This is who? This is 1. Nickname 1. I'm going to say hello everybody. Hello everybody. Welcome to my chat room. So he is saying 1, hello everybody, welcome to my chat room. You can see it here also. 2 is saying 1 is saying hello everybody, welcome to my chat room. Also here 3 is also saying, then we're going to say 2 is going to say hello 1, thank you for setting this up for us. And then 3 has seen what was said. So hello 1 and 2. Thank you guys for keeping time. So you're seeing that the chat continues here, and this is a very simple chat. The server side can be hosted in any virtual machine anywhere, and you share only this code with the clients and everyone connects, and you can have a chat that is not saved anywhere. You just use your terminal to chat. If you have not subscribed yet and you've reached this point of the video, please consider subscribing. We do data science and data engineering tutorials, videos, projects, everything around them, news. And today what we wanted was just to do a fun project onto command chat application. Also find the code in the description, find the links to all the resources I've talked about also in the description. Until next week, or until I do another project, whatever you've learned today, share, read more, and share with other people, and the world will be a better place. Until then, have a good time coding, boy.